Welcome, welcome everybody to your nature journal workshop. This is your Ask Jack session. I am one of your hosts. I'm John Muir Laws, and I am joined today by the amazing Vea Moore, the mad botanist herself. And we're here to field your questions on nature journaling strategy and any issues that people may have with drawing something. If there's something of a journaling nature that you would like to discuss, please put that into the chat. And we will draw from that for our selection of topics for the day. At the end of the workshop, we'll have a chance to share what's going on in your journals and check in with some of our community members. And if you're new to this, if you haven't been with us before, I want to invite you and encourage you to participate and to join to the degree that you feel comfortable. Nobody here bites. It's a lot of fun, really friendly community, and you start to get to virtually know all these sorts of people, and it's cool. You'll like it. Avea, there's cool things going on in the world of nature journaling, are there not? Could we get you to kind of give us an update on opportunities with nature journaling that are currently going on?
Absolutely. And I believe I have the community calendar link right here, so you can all see that. And without further ado, I will hand it back to Jack. So thank you.
Hey, thank you. And thank you for the support you give this community.
I almost forgot.
Yeah.
Happy belated birthday.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yes, I'm much more mature now. This whole 56 thing, I think I like it. It feels a lot like 55 did now. But it was a wonderful excuse to get out and do a conservation stewardship project. And I also recorded part of that for the final episode of the Nature Journal Connection. So got out with the family and we did a trash cleanup along San Mateo Creek. And the coolest thing that we found, actually I'm going to bring you back in on this, Vea, because you are the person who you instigated this whole people doing trash cleanups on their birthday. And so I want to send a shout out to you and props to you for spreading stewardship into this community. Those seeds that you planted are they're sprouting in some really cool ways. So we picked out about 7 big bags of trash with a bonus of a piano bench. So we had a piano bench in our marsh, and so we brought that out to the dumpster as well. It was fun. It was a good time.
What marsh is this?
So this was where the creek that comes out of San Mateo comes into San Francisco Bay. And what was weird, there was no piano. I know. Usually those things go together, but this time there was no piano. But we had a ton of fun, and I just wanted to say thank you to you. What did you do?
So I went out to Chrissy Field. I walked as far as I could around the marsh and picked up as much trash as I could. A lot of cigarette butts. The weirdest thing was that there was a sign that was like blowing in the wind saying, "Take out your trash with you," one of those official signboards. And that was where I found the most cigarette butts. And so I took a picture and I was just staring at it like, why? And I brought along my telescopic shrub rake so I could reach into the bushes and pull the trash away from the edges of the marsh. It was also a good time, but I want to visit that marsh that you're talking about. If you've got 7 bags of trash plus a piano bench, like that, does it need more love? Does that place need some more love, or is it looking pretty?
It's looking really good now.
Okay, then
I just went out there this morning and right before class, and there was in the last high tide, there's one more plastic container that washed up and a sole of a shoe. But it's still perhaps a work in progress. But thank you so much for bringing that. That it just made me so happy to do that on my birthday. And thank you to Diane and all the other folks who also got out there and did yourself a little cleanup. If you did a cleanup somewhere, add a note in the chat about what you did. And that was fun. Thank you all.
On behalf of the marsh that you stewarded, thank you. Thank you for making that marsh a better place.
Oh, yeah, there's this goose down there this morning. The goose was like looking around, kind of going. Yeah, I got 2 alula up.
See, that's the thing, is that you say that you're like more mature. That means you have to have even more puns, even more awesome puns.
Oh yeah, yeah. Maybe with age, the idea that there's such a thing as a bad pun, that myth dissolves, and your filter for punnage becomes just a little bit more wispy. Let's hope that happens.
Thank you, Jack.
Yeah, Anne, thank you so much for cleaning up in Petaluma. That's great. So let's take a look at some kind of interesting angles on birds. And there's also a request for some gouache tonedy paper stuff. So we're going to do some gouache tonedy paper, but we're going to take a look at the other angles on birds that we normally don't do, because we've done side, we've done front, we've done the back view of the bird. But as has been pointed out, very often you're down there and you're looking up at the underside of the warbler. And so how do you, then you try to draw that from the side? No, you're seeing it from underneath. So what if we can draw things from the angle that we actually see them? That's good. I am going to pull a book off my shelf. There's a book on warblers, and it has this. I just want to maybe start with this sort of whole big page of bird butts. Oh, there it is. I see the warbler book. Yeah, warbler people, they really get into that view from underneath. And where is check this out. This is cool. So who's your illustrator? Not seeing the illustrator listed. Whoever illustrated by Thomas Schultz and Cindy House. So whoever had the idea of presenting this view of these birds, I like this person's brain. Let's take a look at. I am going to. Look at that. I mean, isn't that, whoops, come this way a little bit more. Isn't that useful? I mean, how interesting. All these views of all these undersides of tails of these warblers, and just realizing that there are really distinct, interesting patterns that we're seeing there. Let's just kind of generalize off this page and sort of notice some things, then we'll work on this into our sketches. That on a bunch of these tails, there's sort of there's a white spot. You can think of this as a white spot, but what we're seeing then is that the part that is tucking into the bird actually has melanin in it, that dark pigment. And so that gives you kind of, by the edges of the upper tail coverts, you've got these little tuck-ins. And then the pigment is going along the side, and then it goes across the mid vein of the feather to the top, giving you these little curved. So it is this little sort of dreidel shape that we're getting there on those. This one here, flat, cut across, right? Here, just not with the dark up here, but the darkness coming in here in a little tab. So here, look at the difference between this here in the hermit and there in that olive. That's really interesting. So when you get views like this, this would be a really useful thing for us to start kind of documenting in our books. Let's also take a look at the undertail coverts themselves. So the undertail coverts are this triangle here. These are the bottom of the belly feathers here, this little W. And then that triangle below it is the undertail coverts. So there are feathers that go along the sides and down the middle. And if those are marked strongly or lightly, or just a few of them, we're going to get these patterns in the undertail covert. So it's just that there actually are patterns there. That's a really, really useful thing to notice. So let's, bearing this in mind, let's take a look at putting that on our bird. Oh, one other thing that's neat about this, these dark things that you're seeing along the sides there, those dark bits are the underside of the wing that is then tucking up over here, right? I think it might be useful also for us to take a look at the relative proportions of tails and wings. And a lot of glare on this page. Let's see if I can get this at an angle. Oh, wait, hold a second.
We also had a question about which book is this?
This is called, of Old Crazily Things, Warblers.
Very apt.
Great book, but no points for creative title, but very nice and descriptive. So a couple things to notice about, I wanted to kind of take a look at the wings, what the wings do relative to those undertail coverts. If you look here, the undertail coverts are coming up here and the wingtip is about coming to the same place. Let's just look at some other birds. Here a little bit shorter, here a little bit shorter, here a little bit shorter. The secondaries are about where the coverts start. And then in this little birdie here, here's the undertail coverts, and the wings tips are going out to about where you see that. So the primary is sort of sticking out there. Generally speaking, here's a bird with really long undertail coverts, and look at that really long primary projection going all the way out to there. So sometimes you might see the wingtip from there. So where the tip of the wing is relative to the end of those coverts, that's going to be a useful thing to notice. Here, wingtip, undertail coverts, we're seeing them coming out to about the same point. So that's kind of a useful landmark. Generally speaking, that wingtip is about out to the tip of those. Let's go back to that one page with all those tails, because there's one other thing that you can note in there. And that is the relative size of the undertail coverts compared to the length of the rest of the tail. So some birds will be long-tailed, some birds will be short-tailed. So look at here, this little Wilson's warbler. The length of the undertail coverts is about the same as everything else coming down here, right? Or longer. This slate-throated redstart, that's a crazy long tail. And look at the parula here. Lots of undertail coverts, and then there's a little stub of a tail that is sticking out behind that. So Tennessee warbler, same thing here. Right? So undertail coverts for days, and then short little stub of a tail. So there also are proportions that we want to be kind of looking at. And what I would suggest doing is, as you are looking up into the trees, that you're saying out loud these sorts of proportions. If you don't, then when you go to sketch them later on, all those little details in your brain will disappear. So let's create a generic underside of a bird, sort of a generic underside of a warbler. Here's going to be my little warbler body. The general axis of the body is going to be coming down here. So I'm putting in a light oval here. And then on different birds, there's going to be undertail coverts of different lengths that are coming down here. And that then morphs into the tail. So the tail, think of it sort of coming from the edges of the undertail coverts here. On a lot of birds, there's going to be a little bit of a notch that you're seeing in the tail there. And others will be square. And then the throat and the head, if you look at the head is generally not going to be out here. Because if you're looking at, say, the side view of a bird, side view of that bird, generally speaking, that head is up on top of that body. So when you're looking at it from the underside, this view here, here's my body, here's my undertail coverts. I'm missing a lot of the head. Maybe I will put it in this position here where we're getting a little bit ahead. I don't want to get ahead of myself. But there's not any sort of throat part that I'm seeing. If I am seeing that, it is going to be kind of foreshortened because I'm looking up at the underside of this bird. So that means that I have a little bit of headness that might be coming out here, but not that much. Let me now come in here with a darker graphite pencil and work up this a little bit more. So here's the underside of my beak. My head is going to be a little cone tucking into this ball of the belly here. And the belly feathers, there's a clump of feathers that attach in here and a clump of feathers that attach on this side. And the feathers are smaller towards the top, and they are getting more shaggy down towards the bottom. And this clump, so I'm just going to suggest a little bit of shagginess, and I'm going to put an M in a sort of a W into it here. So this there's a little bit of a seam that you might see going up the middle of the belly of the bird. When you are doing bird banding, what they do is they blow right in here, and Ann Chadwick can tell you all about this. These feathers blow back, and they can see how big the brood patch is, actually bare skin that the bird has right down here on its tummy. And that that way, when they sit on their eggs, they wrap these feathers on the side around the eggs, but the eggs are in contact with the bird's actual skin. If they just sat down on top of the eggs would freeze because the bird is so well insulated that the heat from its body would not really get to them. So that's why there's this big bare patch there, and thus this little crease up the bottom. Let's kind of work think about the features up in here a little bit more. I'm going to have a throat area that is in like something in this area. I have malar zone that is on the sides of that. The breast of the bird is down in here. And then I'm going to divide the feathers here on this part here into thinking of the ones down here as the belly and the ones over here as the sides. So sometimes we're going to have our sides. And these zones can get different sorts of patterns. Now, undertail coverts. I'm just putting a few little hatch marks, a few little flicks of my pencil into here to make this feel just a little bit fluffy. And then my tail coming down like that, I want to pay attention to what is the length of that tail. I'm going to, on the tip of that tail, come up a little bit, then down to the middle. So it also is making a W. Down, small down, up, down, up. If the wings are visible, I'm seeing some wings. Very often the wings are held on the above the wings, above the tail, that is. So you just see that. But also the wings can droop down below the tail here. So this one here, this one is kind of coming in here. So you might have your wing actually tucking in there underneath that tail. Let's put some, so I can play with the tail pattern a little bit more, I'm gonna put that one above. Let's give this one a little bit of pattern on its tail. So I'm gonna arc this over here. I'm gonna draw one of these feathers off on the side here. So one of these feathers would have dark up the skinny side. It would have a little bit of dark that crosses that line here. And it's also going to have a little bit of dark in here. And then that's what's giving us this pattern. Anytime you find a dead bird, just putting that, picking it up, turning it over, it's a great way to study the sort of the shapes and the angles and the individual feather patterns. It's so cool to look at what is going on with the white stripes on the sides of the tail of a dark-eyed junca. We can have patterns here in the undertail coverts. Let's put a little bit of pattern into this sky. So if there are, let's first do sort of the diagram of the tail here. And a diagram of the undertail coverts. Essentially, I can have feathers that come along the sides here. Overlapping something like that. And then, so if you take a look at going back to those cool tail diagrams. So that's what you're seeing right there. Boop, 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 boop. And then you have on the inside of this, think of feathers coming in there like that. So if the tips of these have dark on them, then you're going to get these that's what's going to make the patterns. So on this bird here, I'm not going to draw in all those featherlet edges because the feathers are fairly soft, but I want to look for, is it streaked on the underside or is it plain? Let's say this one is just a little bit streaked towards the tip. I want to remember this pattern in organization as I am putting in just a few marks on the underside there. If I turn off this light, that glare will go. Ah, that's better, right? So I'm remembering this pattern when I'm dropping something into here. So on the chest up here, different birds are going to have different patterns. But here's a general way of thinking about this is think about this as I'm going to draw in an alternate chest diagram right over here. And this is the breast. So you can think of this way. Think of a basket of lines coming in here. And then think of sides coming down like that. So if there was sort of a way to sort of simplify sort of spot patterns, and those spots often will appear in lines. So I might have like that. But do you see how this pattern is following this general model? So streaky sorts of patterns are often the hardest to 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 handle. You also will get sort of solid blocks of color. Another thing that you can get is that sometimes this whole area here is bare. And so you get kind of an open throat region. It kind of looks like then like you've got a necklace coming along here, then with streaks coming down from that. Those are all sort of common patterns you can see on birds. But now let's imagine that it is, I don't know, something like a, say a Townsend's warbler, and where you're going to have streaks on the sides, but you also have sort of various degrees of kind of a heavy collar up on top. If you have a male, this is going to be a male Townsend's warbler, and we're going to first do it where it's a young bird, so not in full breeding plumage, so maybe in the fall. And it's going to be basically the same pattern. We're going to have you can get something like this. So it's spotty, it's streaky. There is a little bit of darkening right around this sort of this throat area. But when that bird comes back in the spring to breed, then this pattern changes and it gets this solid black throat. And then that connects into these bars that you see on the chest. And the Townsend's, it's not going to have spots in there. And it'll probably have a little bit of a longer tail. So, but I'm mapping head patterns in here. I've got a way of kind of putting stuff down here. The final thing that we then get to put in, or you can think about if you want to, just for kind of quick note-taking purposes, you can leave your bird without legs or a branch. But what if you wanted to put in some bird feet and have this be sitting on a branch above you? Well, on the bird here, we'll take a look at this bird from the side. So if my undertail coverts are coming in here, my bird has a hip bone in here. It has a knee that is up in here somewhere. It goes back to a heel here. And so very often right around this area, there's a little stocking that sticks out. It's the bottom of the tibia of the bird. And that's its heel sticking out. little bit of a feathered shaft, and then the foreleg, or the sort of the instep, the tarsus of the bird is here, and then that is connecting onto the toes. So that means that in this area right here is where our little bird leg is going to come out. So very often the legs are a little bit pigeon-toed. And if you are, imagine that you are looking at this bird from underneath, this leg with a shaft this long is going to become foreshortened if you're looking at it straight from below to a shaft that would be that long. So this is the length. If you're viewing this shaft at an angle from below, that would get shorter. So that means that even though I know that the bird has legs that come out this far, in this foreshortened view, they perhaps are only coming out this far, or even less if they were straighter. And then the bird's foot is going to attach in here, meaning my branch is going to be, I often like to figure out where the feet are. Here's my bird foot. I'm going to come around here, a little claw. So that shaft is going to be reduced. The real bird you're going to be seeing is going to be flitting around. It's going to be moving all over the place. So having a kind of a template of what I might expect to see from below is really useful. And also realizing that I can, from underneath, looking up at the bird above me in the tree, there are going to be a bunch of views. There's a bird, and it has something over here, here is branch, and it's got its little bird feet here. Or I don't see the head. That's totally bird possible. We will tend to draw the head in because it's so hard not to draw the head on your bird. But you may not see that from the angle that you're looking at. And if you don't, then that's okay. I'm going to just do a quick Google search to see if I can find, if you do perched bird from below, if any photographers have gotten a photograph of that online, and looks like that's something that nobody does. Yeah, almost all the photographs that you'll see, these are the photographs that the photographers put in there, never show this to the public view. So you'll find, very few, you'll see lots of birds doing it, but you'll find very few photographs of anybody doing that. So I'm going to now just do kind of a quick sketch, and we'll then drop some gouache in on that and use that to just also as a little gouache demonstration. So I'm seeing kind of an olivey breasted bird, and it's got bright yellow undertail coverts, and the rest of it is very olivey, maybe some. Let's see, I probably should do this with a real bird in mind. Let's say it's a. Well, I know. Let's do a yellowthroat. So there's you're lying on your back on your raft in your marsh. Okay, that's improbable. Let's do a. Flip through this book of warblers, and all right, let's say there is a little Townsend's warbler above you. What might you actually see? Very often the feet are not going to be square like this. If they're up on a branch, you might get one that is longer, one that is shorter, different angles. So this one here, I'm going to draw just some toes coming over. It's going to have some good undertail coverts. The Townsend's warbler, I think it's mostly pretty pale underneath the tail, but a little bit of dark edges. I have a hint of streaks coming down. And in on the head of the bird, it's going to be mostly obscured from us. A little bit of a darker chest. Maybe we see a little bit of a beak sticking out. And very often it just doesn't look right in not having that head, but you may not see the head from where you are. I'm going to drop a little bit of gouache on this. Let me show you kind of the approach which I would take. So I'm going to start with just some white here, white gouache. And this is going to mostly cover up those marks that I put in. But they'll probably still show just a little bit, enough for me to later put them in on the belly of this bird, if I leave a little bit of the gray paper, should have left some gray paper around the tail area there. If I leave some gray paper in the center there, then that will, that can help kind of get that little crack going up between them. There's yellow on the chest of this bird, and that yellow comes down the sides a little bit. And now I'm going to let it dry. I'm going to speed this up with my hairdryer. Just about dry. Great. All right. Now, I am going to give this bird a little bit of a dark throat. You're just using a zebra brush, a zebra pen. This allows me to have kind of nice big dark marks. And it plays very nicely with this gouache that's dry. Lots a few little marks and tail down there. Wings back there. And then I'll just take my ballpoint pen and make that edge a little bit. There's a little birdie underside. It's interesting how prominent the undertail coverts become. It's something that, normally we don't think very much about. This little zone in here in the bird. But when you see the underside view, that's something that's very much in your face and something which we want to keep track of. Let me now jump back here. So don't be afraid of the underside of the bird. And another thing that I think is really useful to do, if the bird is just bouncing around and you can't really get a good look at it, you don't have to do a whole underside portrait. You could just draw a little sketch of the belly, the underside, and the tail. Right? You know, sometimes if you get just a little nugget of information in your head, get that down and put it in your book. And think of the view where you are seeing the underside of the tail also as a useful nugget of information. Otherwise, they're like, there's like, why draw the underside of the tail? It ends up being really useful because it's something that you see a lot. And so if you just sort of have as, I'm going to jump back to the vid, this little doodle here, this little, like, I have a belly, I have a triangle, I have a tail. Right. That's, if I can kind of quickly make that doodle, then I can adjust it for whatever bird that I have. All right, this one has, it's, you know, under tail covert's going to be shorter. It's going to have those curves in the tips. It's going to have those curves at the base. Okay. Get that little dreidel shape. And there, fast little sketch, I've got a lot of information then about this bird. If I wasn't thinking of that underside of the tail view as anything to really write home about, I might not be inspired to go looking for that. So yeah, let's start to, where we can, put this on our thing. My challenge is for folks in North America, without looking it up in the book, the next time you encounter a yellow-rumped warbler, very, very, very common warbler throughout the United States, see if you can make a diagram on, without checking what it should be like in a book. See if you can make a sketch of the underside of the tail of a yellow-rumped warbler from your own direct observations in the field. And this is great because they're always up there, always showing that too. But think of all the times we've seen up here and then tried to draw the bird from the side. So if there's any comments, questions, thoughts, or ideas about tails, Heather's got a suggestion for folks about the Warbler book, The Warbler Guide by Tom Stevenson and Scott White. Heather, if you've got a copy of that book, could I bring you into the show here with it? You could hold it up to your screen and show us. If you feel comfortable doing that, then yep, okay, here we go. I'm going to add you into the spotlight here. Heather, thank you so much for being with us. You can now unmute and show us this cool Warbler book.
This is the Warbler Guide. It's by Tom Stevenson and Scott Whittle. You have to excuse me, I have social anxiety.
Oh, I'm sorry for putting you on the spot here.
No, it's okay. But I want to point out too that they have an app that goes with this. It's called the Warbler Guide app, and it has 3D models, fully rotatable.
Whoa!
And I also want to point out that I did them. So
you did?
Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool.
This book is very comprehensive.
Oh, they went to town. Photographs of every view.
All the undersides, every view.
Oh, I love that.
And I don't think I can find it right now, but they have pages of charts which with just the profiles of the heads, the underside views, the rear views, all of the different views, and they're free. And I'll put a link in the chat for you.
Oh, this is cool. And so you are a graphic designer and a 3D modeler.
Yeah, I'm an artist, and I was approached by Tom and Scott to see if I could do the 3D models. I'm not a 3D modeler. They had interviewed a bunch of actual modelers who didn't understand bird species. So me as a birder and as an artist, I convinced them that I could learn 3D modeling. So I hired a tutor.
And you did.
And did it, but I like the tutor and I worked so well together that we've partnered on it.
That's really, really cool. I'm honored to meet you as the and are any of those 3D models available online?
Yeah, just download the Warbler Guide app off it's a Princeton University Press app. What we do is we sample little pieces of different photographs. First, we build the geometry, and then so we have a grayscale model, fully rotatable, fully anatomically accurate, and then we sample little pieces from photographs, and then build the texture. So it's a big project.
That is huge.
You can't, and we've also done one called the Bird Genie. Also has 3D models, and you can do. It's like Merlin. You can record the bird, and then it will identify it and show you the model.
This is exciting. This is really, really cool. And also I love that just sort of this is a technology you didn't know how to do it, and you stepped up and you trained your brain how to do it.
Oh, absolutely. I'm not afraid of learning new things, and I was just so excited for the project. And they were really excited about my enthusiasm. So we've all been partners on these projects ever since. And so, yeah, it took 6 weeks for me working with Bo, who's my modeling partner. He taught me Maya and ZBrush. And so now I'm pretty much acting as the birding, the anatomical expert. I do all the art directing. He and I both did the texturing, the models for the Warbler Guide.
I'm just looking at this online. This is what a resource. This is fantastic.
It's huge.
I had no idea. This is making really good use of technology.
Yeah.
That's great.
It's pretty cool.
In the course of doing this, did you, I'm guessing that your three-dimensional understanding of being able to rotate birds anywhere in your head radically improved also?
The way we start actually is I do the 3D or I do the orthographic drawings. So organic orthographics is pretty mind-bending. So I have to flatten the front of the bird, flatten the side of it, flatten the underside, flatten the top side, and make all of these orthographic views that I present to the 3D modeler. The project I'm working on now is too big for me to, I'm going to try and be less nervous.
No, you can turn off your camera if you want to. Feel free to. We'll still be able to hear you.
So we've hired a team in India. So I've got about 7 or 8 artists. So I provide them, what I have to do, it's interesting. I take a photograph of a bird. I have to flatten it in all views. Then I present it to these artists who have to blow it up again into a 3D view. And then from there, we have to texture it. So I'm going back and forth between 2D, 3D, 2D, 3D.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Yeah, if it wouldn't make you feel uncomfortable, we'd love to I would love to pick your brain about visualizing birds in 3 dimensions to see if there's any suggestions that I could bring to the group, or if you felt comfortable doing that. I bet there'd be a bunch of people here that would love to just sort of hear you wax philosophical about, kind of rotating a bird in your head and on the piece of paper. But
once I prepare, I'm not quite so nervous, so I could probably give you guys a presentation, because I think you would be fascinated. It's pretty cool, and so far at this point, I've done probably, let's see, probably 800 orthographic drawings. I used to do them the old school way by drawing them.
Yeah.
But now I'm doing Photoshop mashups. And the reason I'm doing that is because the modelers in in India were a bit too young and didn't understand old school orthographic drawings. So instead of drawing them, if I flatten them photographically, which sounds strange because photographs are already flattened, but when you're looking at a photograph, your mind translates it into a 3D bird. I have to retranslate that back into an absolute flat picture for them. And then they translate that back, with all the calligraphy into a 3D model. So it's quite a process.
That's amazing. I mean, I'm sure you must have found so many that's going to force you to look at really subtle aspects of foreshortening that most people never really consider.
Yeah, you would be fascinated and probably think, my God, this is too strange to even look at. When I flatten a bird photographically to an orthographic flattened view, it looks completely, you wouldn't even recognize it.
Wow. This is fun. This is really, really fun. Could I invite you to just sort of out of the when this is over, just send me an email to make an initial contact, and we will figure out a way to. I'd love to give you a chance to sort of prepare and to share this with the group for as much time as you felt comfortable.
Absolutely. I'll send you an email, and I'll send you some examples of hand-drawn orthographics, and then the Photoshop mashups. And for people who don't know what a mashup is, that's taking a little piece here, a little piece there, and a little piece there out of maybe 50, 60 different photographs and basically building a bird. So it's a process. I have to start by collecting reference. So I may have collected, I don't know, a couple hundred reference pictures. No, usually about 300 to 400. And so I'm taking pieces from all those different birds to build these. And then when you see them, I don't know, when you get a chance to take a look at the Princeton Warbler Guide or Bird Genie, these look like real birds, basically. You can fully rotate them. You can see them from all angles, underside, everything.
That sounds like, also just being able to take that image and move it around and see, like, oh, from this angle I'm not seeing the head, from this angle, like the in 3/4 views, like what the wing on the far side is doing always gives me so much trouble.
Well, I think this app would be very useful for the journalers, because they can then take these models and just turn them any direction they want to, and be able to see what that bird looks like, which is one reason why I suggested that today, because I work with undersides. I'm sitting working with undersides every day, and they're fascinating. The undertail coverts, there's so many different feathers, so many different patterns. And as you said, with warblers, often that's all you get to see are the undersides.
Wow. Well, Heather, thank you so much for sharing that with us.
You're welcome, and I will try not to be so nervous next time.
Oh no! If you hadn't said it, we would not have known. You were great. You are great, and we look forward to learning from you. This is incredible. Thank you so much for sharing information about the app and that book. I think
You are more than welcome.
that's really exciting. Wow. Hey, this I'm really looking forward to it when we get a chance to spend some more time with Heather. That's so cool. Does anybody else have any thoughts, comments, ideas about warbler bellies or 3D visualization? If so, you can just raise your hand and wave at me, or use the raise hand function on your computer. And not seeing that, does anybody have any journal pages or experiences that you wanted to share with us? Great, I see Kate has been sketching up a storm, same with Jack. And so let's start with Kate. Hey there, it's good to see you. Oh, sorry, I need to, now you can unmute.
Hey, so I've been going off of your last two Ask Jack classes where we went over amphibians a lot. And I decided to kind of go crazy with that. And so, as I mentioned when I talked to you a couple days ago, I've done a bunch of pages of amphibians after that class. It's kind of interesting looking at how they've kind of improved, because that's like the starting point during the class.
Yes.
And then, you know, a few pages later, by a few I mean like 6 or 7, they start to look, get more light in here.
Oh, look
more
at
like
these.
that.
I love those eyes sticking up. Aren't the eyes fun?
They're so fun, but I've really kind of gotten into the herpetology thing, and I contacted some people I found on Instagram to ask if I could use photos as references, and I've had a lot of fun kind of going through and learning about them and learning how to draw them.
Oh.
Yeah. That's kind of fun because I feel like I really kind of mastered the basics of drawing frogs, and I even ventured into doing some reptiles.
Oh, nice. Oh, yes. Oh, beautiful patterns. Yeah, the geometry on these things is just mind-blowing.
Yeah, and I also did some paintings on watercolor paper that are a little bit more finished. Like I just did a quick salamander study where I tested out a couple different techniques with gouache and with using just white spaces that were covered up with masking fluid. I kind of went a little heavy-handed, like on this one, I just left way too much white. And then this one I feel like kind of got the best of everything with the gouache and with how I layered the colors. And then this one has so many layers of color to kind of give it these undertones and stuff. And then the white gouache, or not white, but sort of this yellowish gouache over the top kind of made him look a little weird.
Oh, that's really fun.
Yeah, I did one where I did painted frogs.
Oh, they glisten, don't they? They look
Yeah.
wet. Yes. And they really feel like they have weight and solidity. They feel like they also have an architecture to their bodies.
Oh, they totally do. And that's the hard part, because they have such structured bodies that if you don't incorporate that, it looks really wrong somehow.
Yeah. Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah, that's been really fun.
Oh.
Looking forward to the iguana class on Thursday. But yeah, it's just pages and pages of practice sketches and then coloring those in. And
could we see another one of just those practice sketches?
just the sketches.
Yeah. Oh.
And some of these are actually the ones that ended up on there, because if I like a sketch, then I'll use a transfer paper and just put it on nicer paper so it'll paint better. Let's see.
Boy, it makes such a difference. It makes such a difference. Oh yeah.
Yeah, so I think this
Nice
Sunday I
line
got
variation. You're also exploring different sort of pencil pressures and graphic
yeah,
styles there.
that and then just trying to really master just the art of sketching things well.
Yep.
So I feel like once you kind of hone your ability to just sort of look at something and make a quick sketch and really focus on shapes and forms instead of drawing what you think you see, I think it's the hardest part of drawing. So
Yeah.
I think probably the little 30-second sketch has been like the most helpful thing for developing my eye and all that stuff. So yeah.
Wow. That's really fun. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Wow. Oh boy. Again, the number of pencil miles that you put under your belt each week is so inspiring. You know, that's what makes the difference. It's and you're motivated.
Yeah, definitely. I kind of just pick a new thing that I really struggle with and then try and push through it.
Yeah. To choose something also that is challenging to you. Again, we sort of the idea of surfing the wave that is just outside of your comfort zone, so that your brain is constantly leaning into the state that it needs to be into to grow and develop. Wonderful work, Kate.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Let's see what's up in Jack's journal. Jack, good to see you.
Hey,
Hey
so
there.
my brother really made a discovery. So last week when I was in this call, he was down at the bottom of our hill golfing, and he went into the woods to what he thought was a golf ball, but it was actually an egg. So, and I identified it. It was like double the size of a hen egg. It was a great horned owl egg. There wasn't a chick in it. It was just the shell, but yeah, I have it right here. We put it in vinegar so it got cleaned.
Wow. Wow. Look at the
Yeah,
size of this.
Yeah, it's huge. And it was underneath a big pine tree. And then I did some sketches of it. I did a comparison with a chicken egg.
Yep. And what makes you lean towards the great horned owl as the egg?
So I just kind of guessed either hawk or either like eagle, hawk, owl, some sort of large bird, because it's large egg. So I looked up hawk egg, and that said large white egg with brown spots. So then I looked up great horned owl egg, and it matched everything. It was large white egg, two to three large white eggs. May use the stick nest of heron, hawk, eagle, or crow. And we have a lot of, like, it would be uncommon not to see a hawk. Like, almost every day we see at least 2 hawks. Like we saw one when we were driving home today. So there's a ton of hawks around here. So I think it might have used a hawk nest or something, but I'm pretty sure it's a great horned owl egg, and it is big.
That is really, really fun.
And another cool thing, I also finished this sketchbook. I finished my book, so I'm on to this one that I got for my birthday.
Oh, great.
I put that sticker on there. And I did a little toad too. I found outside in the mulch. He wouldn't let me see the rest of his body. He was like, he was like snuggling down in the mulch under like the big, like a green thing that the water goes down from the gutter.
Ooh, look at those parotid glands. Nice line variation too. That punch line right around the edge of the head. Detail on the eyes too. Ooh, so toady. Oh man, that's really, really cool. So also I want to give you a shout out on hold that up one more time. A couple things that I'm noticing. One, this 3/4 view, kind of looking at one eye from one angle, at an angle, and then the other eye sticking up above the edge of the body. That view really shows us this the structure of this so well. And
Yes.
and also that by having that heavy line around the edge there, but not, we'll hold that up one more time. Think of how tempting it would be, because when you put that heavy line around the side of the face and the head and the body, it just works so well. Think how tempting it would be at that point to draw the other leg with the same weight, right? But Jack didn't. Jack left it light, and that's what makes this drawing have a sense of space. So Jack didn't punch in a hard line on that back one, left it like this for the win.
Yeah, so it's kind of cool. I haven't really journaled this yet, but I'm gonna try to do it like each stage. Usually, I don't know which one comes first, the male or the female, but every year under this same spot, like for like every year we've lived in this house, there's always one toad under that same spot, under that same part of the gutter. And then like a couple weeks later, we lift it up when we're looking for toads and stuff, and there's two toads, two toads. And then like a couple weeks after that, there's tiny toads jumping all around the place.
Ah,
Like you get to see like
there may be a connection. That's really neat.
And the first
so this year, knowing this pattern, you're going to be documenting the changes in toadness and following that through time. Oh, this is great. This is cool.
And first sketch in here, there were a ton of flickers all over on the ground, and I noticed that the flickers, they stay on the ground, and yet they're part of the woodpecker family, but they stay on the ground looking for worms. So I did a little in that.
Oh. And so flicker fiesta. Yes, it is. And so hey, folks, notice a couple of things. So one, black malar stripe, red patch on the back. So we've got the yellow shafted variety. So that's neat to see that. I also major shout out for the postures of these birds. So, one is a front view, but then with the head turned at a 3/4 view angle. The other is a 3/4 view angle of the body, but the head turned in profile. So these birds really feel like they're dynamic, they're moving, they don't feel static and locked on the page. And that really, just the proportions are right on. That little subtle shadow on the belly of the bird, not on the right side of the top one, that little shadow line there, also just carves this shape so nicely. So really well executed drawings here. And I love the title too. Oh, Cindy was saying that she loved the page title on the owl egg one, but I was so busy looking at other things, I didn't notice it. What was your title?
I had, for the great horned owl egg, I had like big bubble letters for the beginning of each one, like great horn on the side of the page.
Great horned owl egg. Yep. That's
and then
fun.
I did this little sketch from a
and
picture.
that also gives you the 4-letter code that birders use, GHOW.
And then I had this little sketch I did a couple weeks ago off of a picture of my little sister sucking her thumb.
Oh, that's cool. She's got the.
Yeah, she used this was like a couple, like last year I think. She used to like do this and then like twirl her hair too at the same time. So that was just a little sketch I did. And then I just did lots of flowers at the end of my book. Some forsythia and some daffodil sketches. This was crazy. 2 days ago, I was sketching this daffodil and I just somehow glanced at my finger, and there was a tick on my finger. It was crawling on my finger, and I immediately took out my little bug catcher thing and caught it so we could kill it. But I was really glad it hadn't bitten me yet.
Yeah,
I don't know how.
they like to walk around a lot before they kind of
Yeah.
settle in for their snack. And then were you able to sketch it?
No, I didn't sketch it, but yeah, I'm just glad it didn't bite me.
I am too. I am too.
And that's it.
Hey, such strong work. Such strong work. That's really, really exciting to see. Thanks so much for sharing that, Jack.
Thank you.
Let's see what's up in Ray Bonto's journal. Then we're going to jump over to Susan. Ray Bonto, good to see you. Hold on a second. You are now, you can unmute.
Hi, good to see you too. So,
Oh, yep.
well,
Oh, very good.
it didn't work out like that because I was using pen and I couldn't erase
Yes,
for the thing. But
that's good. Yeah, this does sort of not being afraid of these views opens up all sorts of possibilities for us. I'm really looking forward to playing with that app and seeing what it does for my sense of three-dimensional visualization.
yeah.
Oh, that's really fun.
Then yesterday I found these flowers in bloom. So
Oh, I love your line work. Oh, this is so exciting. You have such a sense of structure. And it looks like you're using some guidelines to kind of get like all those little bells hanging down. Getting one of them to be placed right is a challenge to get the shape and form on it, but then to get this whole cluster of them sort of foreshortened around, that also, that's the next thing. So notice those little kind of pale guidelines that Ray Bonto's got here to help place those. So you're not just drawing one three-dimensional thing, you're drawing all these different three-dimensional things clustered together. That's really neat. That one leaf coming towards us.
yes.
Yep. Wow. Also notice that on that, the flowers that are furthest in the back have they're less detailed and shaded, and that helps push them back. So that one, if you add, it'd be tempting to add more detail into those ones on the back sides. But the moment you do that and start putting more shading in on those, they will then start to feel a lot more like they want to be coming up. So good restraint there.
And a few days ago, on Thursday, it snowed.
Ooh.
I mean, not like that, but just a few drops.
Okay.
Just a few flakes.
Not enough to build a snowman.
No, it didn't even. It just melted as it hit the ground.
Okay.
Now it was not snowing enough, and it was freezing cold, so it was not enjoyable at all. And I didn't layer up enough.
Oh, that's hard.
And my hands were starting to go numb and even starting to bleed.
Oh man.
No. But then suddenly the sun shone, stopped snowing. Yeah, good. Then I looked the other way, in the sun's direction. And there were pigeons diving straight at me. Don't know if you can see. Yeah.
Oh, here they come. Whoa.
Oh, well, this wasn't a performance, I can tell you that. This was,
Oh, hold on a second. We've got
no, it's off.
it's another video audio that was coming there for a moment. Now, so what do you think they were up to?
They wanted to get sketched.
They're like, ah, our portrait artist has arrived. So the pigeons come jamming over to your spot, landed near you to go strut around and be sketched.
Yes, I couldn't do much.
Nice gestures, really nice gesture sketches here. And I like the little story box of them flying in there too. That's cool. That's really cool.
Now, we got some strawberries, and I found some very wonky ones, unusually.
Oh, yeah. What's up with those white tops? They're trying to be radishes.
They're always white over here, but
Oh, with those lumps sticking out the sides too.
this is unusually pointy.
Yep.
And
The other one is got the mitten look to it.
yes, a strawberry with a thumb, or a strawberry man.
That's fun.
So yeah.
Yeah, finding the unusual and weird fruits and vegetables is really, really fun. Unfortunately, if you go into a supermarket, they have people, there are people whose job it is to not put out any fruit that looks atypical. And that's really unfortunate, because I like to get carrots that look like, dancing spiders. So yeah, when you do get an atypical piece of fruit, that's something to enjoy and take advantage of. Like, not all apples have to look like an apple, right? Well, thank you so much.
At a supermarket, we got a packet of shallots, and they turned out all of them were double ones,
Oh, that's fun.
and some were triple.
See, that's good. That's
Yeah.
very good. Those want to be sketched too, not just the strawberry with the mitten thumb. The shallots sound cool. Thank you so much for sharing those. Now the pigeons know you and they want to show up for you. That's good. We've always said, when you show up for nature, nature shows up for you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Let's see what Susan's up to. Hey there, it's good to see you. You can now unmute, I think.
Is it working? Hooray.
Yes.
Hi. Yay. Whoa. That's cool. Well, let's check. Hi, I've got some cool bits and bobs to show off.
Would love to see.
So speaking of interesting angles on birds, nuthatches.
Oh,
These were from some photos that I took because they were moving so fast, and they
yeah.
But so I had a little bit of leisure time, just a nice leisurely picture afterwards. And they have a nice fun little.
Oh, I love the little gray behind that one on the left that really makes the paleness of its feathers stand out.
Yeah, that was fun. I got that in. I was like, should I put another layer on, because in the photos, it's kind of backlit, and so I tried to kind of leave a little white space there to show that, and I don't know how it ended up kind of being all very, very similar values, but I kind of liked it, so I thought I'll just leave it like that. But yeah, this one was really, really fun. Really, it was really tricky to get the angle on the head and the body, and everything, and some of the paint kind of overlapped more than I wanted, so I ended up kind of a big beak, but that was a lot of fun though, and they definitely do some really interesting poses. So
oh, those are such lively little birds. I also love the diagram of how it is winding down these trees.
Well, the funny thing is, so I've read in the field guides things, nuthatch.
Oh, that one went up.
They'll go down the tree, right? So I'm looking with the binoculars, and it goes around the tree and disappears. So I kind of move the binoculars down a bit and wait for it to reappear. Never reappears because it went up instead, because birds don't read the field guides.
Ah, that's right. When the bird and the book
Some of them were
disagree,
going
believe
down,
the
some
bird.
of them were going up. They seem to be going up at least as often as they went down.
Oh, wouldn't it be fun to count that, to quantify that?
Yeah,
And we
I'm
can
going to
see-
go back over that area today. We'll see.
All right. Yeah,
This
do a
was
little
actually
tally
the same
on
day
those.
that I saw the hawk, but and I drew this at that time, but I didn't really fill in pictures until more recently.
Oh,
So
that's really
I'll
fun.
go back and see if there's more. But yeah, I was having fun with that, and then lots of other cool stuff here. So yeah, so then at some point I was going to go on a hike with some friends, waiting for them to show up, and I'm like, oh, what should I do? And there was this dead tree on the trail, the trailhead. So I thought, oh, here's a good opportunity. So it's a pine tree of some variety. I concluded that it's not in fact a white pine, but I still don't know what it is. Most of the pines in that area are pitch pines. It's part of the pine barrens, where that's a very common tree. But this one was a smallish tree that had fallen over dead. I don't know if it was from fire damage or what, but I thought this would be a good opportunity to specifically look, because it was just a tangle of branches, to specifically look at the branch whorls around here and kind of see what that structure is. And so that was really interesting. And then to see how that structure is repeated on the branches themselves.
And
So
as a mathematician who loves fractals,
you
you loved yourself some patterns within patterns.
Oh yes, very much so. Yeah, so that was really interesting. So and also because there was absolutely no way that I was going to draw this whole tree, because it's just everything's overlapping and stuff. So I'm like, let me just focus on one aspect of it so that I don't completely make myself crazy. So yeah, it was really interesting to see. So you have your branches connect. Even though I didn't draw it, even though I wrote down here, I think I said that I noticed that for the most part there were usually 6 branches, not always, coming out of each branch whorl. But on these lower ones, there were some of them that only had 5, and so there were some variations, and some had 7. But generally that was the case. And then some of the really small ones had far, far fewer. But they all seemed to kind of come out sort of radially around the branch, no matter what angle that branch was pointing. And that was the case kind of all over this. But all the surrounding trees, which are a different species, the pitch pines, it was like much more, and I noted down here, much more disorganized. And I did not actually get a chance at that time, but I'm gonna have to go back and look at those and start looking at the pitch pines for comparison, because there's a much less clear whorl structure. There's just, it kind of looks like there's just branches sticking out wherever they feel like. But then on the side branches, when you look at where the side branches come off of the main branches, there's usually just a couple of side branches that are all held out horizontal. And so they have these kind of layers, these horizontal plain branches, which was not the case for this tree that had fallen over. So that's interesting. And I don't know what
that is.
Yeah.
I love that just your friends were late to, and you're hanging out in the parking lot. Here's this dead tree that for most people is just something that should be turned into firewood. And you found a mystery in it. That's so cool.
It's also, and I mean, you should notice, I think I had learned at some point, some time ago, about the idea that the conifers generally have these branch whorls, as opposed to your non-conifers, that have often, but it's not just the branches. It's even when you look at a conifer, even if there's not an obvious branch whorl, a lot of times the branch is sticking out sort of horizontally from the trunk, and then it might curve up or whatever. And in my neighborhood trees, you see that. And whereas on most of your other trees, you're seeing a branch and it's coming up at some angle. Sometimes it's closer to horizontal, sometimes it's very, very vertical, but it's not perpendicular to the trunk.
Mm.
And so, it's very interesting to see how these different, plants do that. So yeah, and yeah, lots of questions. There's one of the things I need a bigger book because I do not have room to write all my questions. So next book's gonna be bigger.
I think that we need to get you a goniometer.
Yeah, actually, that's on my list. But yeah, because I need to measure things.
To be able to measure those angles, it's just such a it makes measuring those sorts of things so much more possible.
Yeah, but here's the thing, like I'm a mathematician. The thing is, I'm a topologist. So like, I'm a topologist, but I sort of kind of backed my way into a sort of a weird version of geometry. So like, technically, if you ask like, what's my research? There's a geometry connection, but it's not actually anything like the geometry that we think of. And so the thing is my kind of instinct is to look at these things and look at those like commonalities of structure, but not necessarily the numbers that measure them. Because in topology, that's like not exactly what we're looking at. So it's sort of interesting because I'm like, this is all interesting, but I'm like, a lot of times my instinct is to be like, okay, well, there's like this level of fractal and that level of fractal, and oh, these things are kind of equally spaced, but not really pay attention to how spaced they are. So I don't know. So it's sort of like, I think about it mathematically, but I don't actually necessarily instinctively go for the numbers.
Yeah. But also just to be able to be fluent with that language of numbers and have that in your toolkit. I mean, what a wonderful skill to have developed.
But I guess that's what I'm saying is that I'm not necessarily any more fluent than anybody else in terms of using that to study nature, sort of the thing, and it's not necessarily the thing that I kind of go for instinctively.
But you do put theta into your notes, and so that does you're on it.
Greek letters. Why wouldn't you? Yeah.
Because you can. Yeah. Well, let me minimize my screen here so we can see what's on this page.
Yeah, so it's just go over page. Yeah.
Oh.
Fun. So when I went out to a local preserve to get you a birthday present of some trash, what I did learn actually is I need to get some kind of grabber or something because there's a lot of stuff like kind of in the edges of the pond, which the shore is kind of squishy and not good, and there was no way that I could get it, and there was no way I was sticking my hand in there, so I need some kind of a grabber tool or something so I can get more of the trash out. But meanwhile, there's this nice little wooded trail. Actually, you've seen a picture of the same area in snow, but now it is in sort of early spring. And so the ghost pipes will bloom in July-ish probably. But right now we have the dead flower heads, or seed heads, which I grabbed one just for fun. So here are I did a pretty good job with size, didn't I? Wow. I was actually not paying that much attention to size. I think I just accidentally got it like that. But yeah, so I was looking at how those grow, and they're very interesting, and sort of got some close-ups of the.
Wow, that's a really cool pod.
Yeah, I tried to sort of pick it apart, but it all kind of crumbled. So we'll have to see if I can. But I really want to see how I want to like watch these things from the bloom until they get to this point and see how they turn into that. Because what I don't know is the structure of the seed pod is a lot like the flower. But from what I'm learning from Nevaeh's classes is that the seed head would develop from the ovary, and so maybe these things here are they're not the petals of the flower, it's something else. So why is the structure so similar, and where does it come from? So I need to like continue going back here and observe these things as they grow. But these are really cool parasitic plants. They're really creepy. They have no leaves, there's no green on them. You're out in the forest and you see these like weird white waxy things coming up from the ground. Very cool. So I love them very much. I love weird plants. So, and I promised Divya I would send her some pictures of those. But yeah, so and while I was sitting there watching these, here's my quote here. Speaking of,
Oh, look at you.
show up for nature, nature shows up for you. Well,
Yes. Oh, a velvet mite.
yes,
Those
that
are
was really cool. Yeah,
So
but
beautiful.
first butterfly of the year. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. And those are the ones that overwinter, right?
Yep. So I've been going out like in the
Oh,
woods.
and look at this. You're diagramming its flight patterms.
Oh yeah. 'cause
Oh,
yeah.
cool.
Yeah, so I was seeing tons of them last spring, and really like watching how they fly in there, because you can really once you start watching them, you can absolutely tell the difference between a mourning cloak and any other dark butterfly that's flying around. And they're biggish. They're not the biggest ones that you did. The swallowtails aren't out yet, but they'll be out soon. Well, like a month or two. But they're absolutely like they do not fly like, you know, a little fluttery thing. They're very, very strong flyers. And what I've noticed from last year is that they're pretty feisty. And if I'm standing there and it's in their like territory that they're hanging out, they'll make these big loops around in the woods. And if I'm still there, they'll come fly right at you and then up. And I don't know if it's because they think I'm a girl and they're trying to impress me. I'm very impressed. Or are they trying to scare me off, which is not working very well? Like, so I don't know like what's going on in their minds, and I can't tell the difference between the males and females when they're in flight or at all. So I don't know, but I've definitely, like last year, there were areas I could be where there'd be several of these making big like loops around the woods, and then they'd come down to the ground and they'd bask. And that was in the early spring before the leaves have come in, so there's lots of sunlight on the ground of the forest. But yeah, so this is like very exciting, first one of the year. I'm gonna go back out later because it's like probably 60 degrees today, so there are probably gonna be more of them out. I hope it'll be great. And yeah, so it's a great day. And you know, they're sort of the rings and everything. And the other thing is, so there's other butterflies here also that overwinter as adults, the eastern commas and question marks. And I have seen those in the summer, but I've seen one comma a couple of years ago in the wintertime. So I don't know, but I keep an eye out because they live in the same sort of foresty areas, because they also feed on tree sap and stuff. So hopefully we'll get some comments. We'll find out. And then,
This is fun.
yeah, so having lots of fun. And then more weird mystery seed pods.
Ooh, look at how many ways you can see those. And then talk about your topologist mind. Just kind of hold your journal up just a little bit.
Yeah, but you're gonna like that. I thought you'd like that part. I'm debating if I should try and like put a little color to show like the position of those 5 sort of parts. But I think that what you have is a round pod that has like a radial symmetry with the 5 parts. But instead of just opening up like a sunflower or something, that these all sort of like they fan out somehow.
Yeah.
I don't know if the flowers actually like has that radial symmetry or what, but it was really interesting that almost all of the like empty seed pods or seed heads or whatever have this kind of fan structure, but there were just a few that were sort of rounded. And so I think that it starts off as this round thing, but instead of opening up just all evenly, I think it does this. The trouble is I have to find it in the summer or fall or whenever it blooms and watch what happens.
Well, yeah, that's not the problem. That's what you now get to do.
Well, I know that, but the problem is that there's too many things.
There's too many things that we're curious about in this world.
Yeah,
so many mysteries, so little. Oh, that's fun.
Yeah, but yeah, so
I love that. I love that. So Zotichil made a comment in the chat that I think is really spot on, and I want to reinforce it. And she said, "Don't dim your brilliance." you are inspiring to us. Your brain, your curiosity, your appreciation and skill development in mathematics. And I'm really inspired by that. And I think that probably a number of other people in the community are as well. For us to see strong, brilliant women, right? Sort of being in that space and owning your beautiful mind is something that I want my daughters to see, and for people in this community to be exposed to. So just sort of tying into what Zoda Schill was saying, she said, don't dim your brilliance, and you are you have such an amazing, joyful mind, and I want to just give that the respect that it's due.
Well, thank you, and that's very kind of you. And I was thinking about sort of some things because you've said it a couple times, very, very kind things, but saying you love my brain and everything, and I appreciate that, and that feels good to hear. But I think I sort of think about it because I am a math teacher, and and I think I think I relate to you a lot because you, in a lot of ways, you're an art teacher among many other things, and math and art are things that a lot of people, just random person you hear on the street, if you tell them I'm a math teacher or I'm an art teacher, they're going to be, oh, I could never do that. Yeah. Both of those things are skills, I think, that feel inaccessible to a lot of people.
Yep.
And I think those of us who have learned those things in practice, I think, and have kind of gained that growth mindset, realize that neither of those things are inaccessible. That those are things that you improve with practice and that you can learn. And so I guess I think about it. One thing sometimes I meet people who think about the who hear that I do math, and I think people sort of I think get a little intimidated, which is like, I'm not giving you math problems, it's okay, so you don't have to do math problems. But also I think for a lot of people, they will kind of they'll say, oh, well, you're so smart and you have this amazing brain. I think in a sort of a way that makes me worry that they're thinking, well, you have this amazing brain, you can do math. And it's okay for me not to be able to do math because I don't have an amazing brain. It's sort of an excuse for not.
Yeah, that's right. That's sort of the gift thing.
Trying to do it, right?
Yeah.
And so I think when I've been sort of, I guess, self-deprecating, I guess, but sort of, like I don't think that I'm selling myself short or that I'm dimming my brilliance or anything. I think my mindset is I don't want people to be thinking that I'm the one who can do math.
Right. That it's this exclusive gift.
Yeah.
But it's a skill that you've developed that you've and
also there are some skills where it's sort of interesting that it is interesting that I don't have necessarily the instinct to go and measure everything.
Yeah.
Even though it's like, isn't that interesting that our brains work that way? And how can I practice? Maybe if I get a goniometer, I will then want to use it and measure everything, measure all the angles everywhere, and and it will develop that. So I'm not saying, oh, I'm not good, I don't do this.
Yeah.
I'm really saying, like, this is not a product of a particular kind of brain.
Yes.
It's the thing that all of us can do, but also B, aren't brains interesting that some of us just naturally gravitate towards certain techniques and not others? So that's really what I'm sort of.
I think that is a really important nuance of this conversation. That it is, so you're not, what you're saying to us is that this is, what you're seeing is sort of the byproduct of the curiosity and the work.
Mhm.
And that is open and accessible to anyone who's willing to be curious and to work.
Mhm.
Yeah. So I've got an update on my moon measuring. And so I remember us getting the height of the moon and the height of the sun, and wanted to get at the full moon, what is the degree of arc difference between those two.
Mhm.
And it came to about 30 degrees. And so I thought, all right, now here's what I want. I want to go, I'm now at the state where I'm going to go now do a little online search. And what I'm expecting to see is that the difference in the plane of the spin of the Earth, which then projected out into space, is the ecliptic. And the plane of the moon, the orbit of the moon, I expected that to be about 30 degrees. And I was going to go like, isn't it amazing that I can measure that, right? And I was all expecting to see that. And so I got onto NASA's site and found a place where they're talking about it. And they said it's about 5 degrees.
Ah, cool. Isn't there
So-
something wrong?
Yeah, so
I was
there
thinking
is,
that too. I was thinking the same thing. Yeah, I mean, it has to be at least 30 degrees, right? Maybe more. But yeah,
and
so our
So-
model is wrong.
so there's, what's exciting there is there's something going on that is different than what I expected, right? And what is it that is going on there? So there's more measurements in my future, and there's also a lot more geeking out with little diagrams. And at a future time, I'd love to kind of play more with that with you.
And this is proof. And again, this is not like dimming myself, but like I think I was the one who made the claim, I think, a week or two ago, that difference in measurement was going to be equal to the angle between the Earth, the plane of the moon's
Yeah.
orbit.
And that's
I claimed that.
yeah, and I was, that's also where I was independently leaning in that direction. And then you said, I was like, yes, this is going to be perfect, right? But what's so neat,
Mhm.
right, is that's what's cool. This is why science is so much fun, is that when you make a prediction and it works, this supports your idea, and you're kind of like, and you've learned something. And when you make a prediction and you see evidence that doesn't fit with that, it's not like when kids are like doing their science fair, they think that what they're supposed to do is find evidence that their hypothesis is correct, right? And anything else is a failure, because there's this idea of wrong in that. But either way, you're learning something, right? And now what it's suggesting is that there is a level of nuance and somethingness going on here, because from 30 to 5, my margin of error, there's a margin of error in my measurements. I'm kind of like going, right, but not that big, right? So,
and also, I mean, I think I knew from previous reading that whatever plane, the plane of the moon's orbit, is not that different from the plane of the ecliptic.
yeah,
When you said 30 degrees, I no,
like,
you have like a sanity check there, and sometimes it's just like sometimes the number does not seem right. Which
Yeah.
is, the measurement probably isn't that wrong. It's that our model was wrong.
Yeah.
So isn't that great? Can't you feel your brain getting bigger
Yes.
Because you got proved wrong on something, and your brain's
Yeah,
getting
exactly.
I
So
love it.
either way, you win because you are getting sort of science is a process of we can't figure out truth, but we can get closer and closer and closer to useful explanations that explain the phenomena and the world around us. And we can make predictions off of those. Actually, now that my journal isn't here right beside me, I'm saying to myself, is it 20 or was it 30 degrees? But either way, it was way outside of my margin of error. But another time I want to
like this is not a very precise measurement, but
yeah, no, but I was actually, I had my little compass up, I was sighting it, I was lining things up with my compass. And I have a little plumb bob on the compass that is showing me
basically a DIY sextant.
Yes, that's right. And so I was doing that with the sun, and then for the moon, and for doing the sun, I was doing the same thing, but aiming it down at the shadow of my head, so that I wasn't looking up into the sun, but because the angle down to the shadow of my head would be the same as the angle up to the sun.
Yeah, assuming you're standing up straight.
No, I think it would, even if I wasn't standing up straight, that angle would still be the same. The angle from the ground to there, independent of where I'm standing, the angle.
Oh, right, because you got a plumb bob. Right. Yeah, good point. So, yeah, going again. Isn't it fun to be wrong?
Yeah, and so I think I was getting fairly accurate measurements. So this is going to be just sort of open up a whole degree of. So what I wanted to do is to start to prime your brain going, okay, this is going to be fun. With, what accounts for that difference? And
what I'm thinking is that we need to find a well that somebody can reliably look at, that's in some part of the earth where on a certain day the sun shines straight down to the bottom of it. Because then, if we can then get them to measure distance of significant mileage to not have too much of an error, and at the same time of day measure the angle that the sun is hitting at that other location and know the distance from the two, then we can calculate the circumference of the earth.
Okay.
Which is a different question, but it's still a
different question.
I think
so,
it may be
all right.
practical, but that's how they did it. That's how Eratosthenes did it.
Well, but we can actually do that with the Nature Journal Club.
Yeah.
We should have a day where we take measurements and see if we can get a back of the envelope estimation for the circumference of the Earth based on measurements of the sun that people are taking at different places around the globe. But do we have to have them in the bottom of a well?
No, I mean you could have a stick that you hold up vertically and verify that it's vertical. And you don't even have it. It would be nice to have somebody who is within the tropics.
We can do that
on a certain day of the year, at a certain time of day. The sun will be directly overhead for them, which it will not be for anyone who's outside of the tropics, but it will be for them on the right day of the year. So the sun shines directly down and that stick has no shadow. But you don't have to have that, because all you really need is you need to have two people with sticks at exactly the same time in different latitudes.
Okay.
And have them both measure the angle the sun makes, and you can do that by figuring out what's the length,
height of the stick, and then you could use the log table or the cosine table to, if you know the height of the stick. So here's my proposal for you. This summer, I am going to. My wife is doing some work in a hospital in Kenya. I'm going with her to take care of the rascals. And so thing 1 and thing 2 and Sibel and I will all be there. That is close to the equator. We then get Guile in Argentina. We get, we need to find somebody at the sort of a really far northern latitude. Time this thing so that we are, and then we could have also all sorts of people all in the sort of interstitial spaces between those.
Ideally, you do it at like not the same time at different time zones, but like literally at the same time, like GMT time. So
Yes.
noon for you, it might be early in the morning for me, you know, and at different times of day for different people. But we do that. Yeah.
So, and then have a call.
Record your latitude and longitude, because that's going to make a difference. See, if we have
And-
enough data of like not just like all along the same longitude, but different latitudes as well,
So
then we might even be able to get not only the circumference of the Earth, but maybe even the eccentricity of the Earth. I don't know if we could measure precisely enough, because the Earth is not a sphere.
Wouldn't this be okay? Here,
It's wider at the equator, right?
that's right, and it's also sort of, I think it's wider.
Where you're measuring.
Is it? I think it's also a little bit more big in the southern hemisphere than in the north.
Is it?
Yeah, so it's not just. Yeah, so yeah, the northern hemisphere is not the same shape as the southern hemisphere.
I did not know that. So it's like an egg shape. Bring Jackie down here, the egg.
Yeah.
Right, if it's wider at one end and pointier at the other.
Yeah. So here, could you shoot me an email? We need to actually let people go because it's noon, right? And so here, shoot me an email.
Sure.
We will hash some wicked schemes for we will all become geometers, geometers. So the word geometry comes from the root of geo, earth, and meter, measurement. So the measurement of the earth. I think that we should all have a day where we all become geometers. Wouldn't that be fun?
Yes.
All
and
right.
I do love my butterflies and moths. There's a lepidoptera angle because, do you know what the name is for the kind of moths that
The geometer.
Yeah. They're geometer moths because they're measuring the marigold.
That's right. The inchworm is the geometrid, the geometridy. They are measuring the earth. That's right. Okay. Hey, this has been so much big fun. We are, and what you're seeing here, folks, is sort of a reflection of what I'm calling deep geeking out. Deep geeking out, where you let your curiosity get hooked by something, and the next you're out at all angles and all conditions, staring at the skunk cabbage that is popping up, or whatever it is that has caught your curiosity. And it is so much fun. We are just so lucky to have these brains to play with. And there's going to be more deep geeking out to come. Nevaeh, is it all right if I join you, put you back on the screen here? All right. Also want to send a shout out and thank you to Nevaeh Moore, the mad botanist herself, for helping manage these classes. Do you have any thoughts or ideas for us as we're kind of heading out here today?
Well, one thing I'd like to add to people's measurements, if they can do it, is when you're doing the moon, could you also please calculate how many hours of moonlight you had where you are? Because there's a difference in different places of the world. Australia, at a certain date, when I was measuring it, Australia had 3 less hours than we did. And I'm wondering if that changes during the year, and if net we have an entire, I'm wondering if it evens out that, based off of the year, that's, one season you get more, one season you get less, or is there a net imbalance? And if so, I'm wondering what kind of implications that might have on certain things about our planet, like nighttime activities of the animals, if our continents might move in a different way because of the moon's gravity. I just think it'd be fun to just study that for a year and see how things change, and compare it to people all over the world. And also, it's
I
a great
think that would be
opportunity.
really fun.
It'd also be a great opportunity to look at different behaviors of animals. Like I remember hearing somewhere that if there's a night with a lot of moonlight, then that's dangerous for animals who are trying to avoid predators. But what happens on the nights when the moon was out during the daytime and isn't up at night because you saw it during the day?
And that's dangerous for the predators because they can't get any food.
So
yeah, and what's neat is well, just as you were saying that, I felt myself kind of go through the whole thing in my brain of like, oh yeah, it's going to balance out. And then by the time you're done, I realized like, or will it? And sometimes our brains present to us the heuristic, easy answer, right? And then sometimes you unpack these things, and there's a level of nuance or subtlety that we didn't see coming. I like that. I like your thought. I did like what if we were to start measuring moonlight? What if we were then also to compare that in different seasons in the northern and the southern hemisphere? And so you know what you need is you need to do this on the buddy system with an Aussie.
Yep. I like that idea very much. Maybe I could bother. There's a lovely lady named Susanna who comes to our Pencil Miles and Chill on Saturdays, her Sundays. So maybe I could ask her if she'd be interested.
Come up with a protocol for measuring it. And then both of you track that synchronously. There are so many rabbit holes that we can go down. I just love the way the bunnies have chewed holes in the fabric of our tenuous understanding of reality.
The other thing is that I don't want to make assumptions that it's the same across the Northern Hemisphere either. We don't know whether the moon is going at a nice even pace or if it's going at an angle. After all, we ourselves are tilted, so who knows if the moon's orbit is more of an elliptical instead of more of a circle. Yeah. So I'd be curious to know how many hours of moonlight I get today, or how many hours of moonlight I get today versus you, Susan, versus you, Ray Bonto, just to see if it's the same in the
Northern Hemisphere. Then compare that with Aussies.
Yeah.
And compare that with what Guile might get in Argentina.
Yeah. And sorry, the other thing is that, you know how we notice that the moon will change angles as it goes through the sky? I'm curious if anybody else ever experiences, and this is something that I need to do more measuring because I'm not sure if I do, but does it ever begin to turn back the other way before it sets?
I can tell you from my observations, it kept going in the same direction. Okay. In the Southern Hemisphere, would we see it going the other way?
Because when I was doing measurements, I noticed that, like what Susan was saying before, that it wasn't going in a circle. It was making it was a bit more sharper incline on this side and then a bit more gradual over here. So more like a sine curve. So that's what I noticed with my measurements. I was using, after you and I talked about the potato method, then I was trying to figure out a good tool, like how we were talking about ancient navigation stuff. And then I found out that there was an ancient navigation device called a theodolite. And I was going to try to figure out how to find one of those because I've seen the people out on the street taking their geologic surveys with those. And then I found out that there's an app, and I'm not sure that I like the idea of using an app, but I wanted to at least try it. Yeah. And that was interesting, using the theodolite app.
And wouldn't it be fun though to figure out how to build your own theodolite?
I want to figure that out really badly. So.
And also some of those old like brass instruments with all the little knobs and tubes and stuff. I just look at that and go like, that's just elegant. That's cool.
I think I might need to make a little field trip to the Maritime Museum and see what they've got.
Oh,
just for funsies.
Yes. Hey, we should go together.
Yes, I would
Field
love that
trip,
so
field
much.
trip to the Maritime Museum to go look at ancient navigation tools and to sketch them and see if there's anybody on staff there who knows how they work.
I would like that very much. Okay, yes, let's go. Let's go either really, really excite the museum staff or drive them crazy with knowledge. Yeah.
But what? But
Let's go have a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And we have to
Right.
be on our pun A game too. We have to make them laugh
Oh, game on.
so that they'll never forget. And then I'll say something later on, but I wanted to say for any of you who were at my plant workshop yesterday and survived, congratulations. And I'm curious to know in my post-class survey how many of you are all now mad botanists as well, because we talked about the lilioid monocots. And I explained them via Pac-Man about who ate who and who threw up who. So I'm curious to know how crazy everybody else is now too.
Oh, what fun. This is, I mean, the idea that we're all alive and we have this we have the opportunity to do this stuff and to make the most of that. There's that Mary Oliver poem. Let's see if I can.
And also, I'm kind of shy about sharing, but because it was for your birthday, I did want to give you props and show you the map that I made of Crissy Field and where I walked.
Oh, let's hold on a second. And this was your cleanup route?
Yes, I started way over here. I was walking along. I actually started way off of the map and was getting some of the black shredded plastic, but the problem is that the winds were so tough. In fact, I'm not entirely sure, but I think it might have been a 5. The winds were so rough that I couldn't keep picking up the black shredded plastic because it kept whipping it away. So then I went, and then there was a bird of prey that landed on a palm tree over here. So I tried to draw it as best I could. Proud of myself for doing field sketches. And then I walked over this bridge here. There was willow fluff all over the ground. There were also coffee cups in the bushes where the shell mound is. So I was like, I'm not having that. So then I walked over, ton of trash over here, captured here. And I was curious to know if there'd be more trash over here because of the wind direction. But I couldn't make it that far because my knee began to really hurt. And so I pretty much staggered to here and then I had to leave. But I saw these birds and I drew them as best I could from what I could see of them, which wasn't a lot, even with my binoculars, but I tried to draw who I saw because I know you love birds. And so this was specifically in honor of you and Beth Galogli, in honor of both of your birthdays.
Oh, thank you so much.
So thank you for everything.
Well, thank you. So let's wrap up today with a Mary Oliver quote or poem. I was thinking about just how wonderful it is that we have this brain that lets us engage with the world, and just how much fun that is. And that made me think of the poem Messenger by Mary Oliver. And she wrote, "My work is loving the world. Here the sunflowers, there the hummingbird, equal seekers of sweetness. Here the quickening yeast, there the blue plums, here the clam, deep in the speckled sand. Are my boots old? Is my coat torn? Am I no longer young and still not half perfect? Let me keep my mind on what matters, which is my work, which is mostly standing still and learning to be astonished. The phoebe, the delphinium, the sheep in the pasture, and the pasture, which is mostly rejoicing since all the ingredients are here, which is gratitude to be given a mind and a heart and these body clothes, a mouth with which to give shouts of joy to the moth and the wren and the sleepy dug up clam, telling them all over and over how it is that we live forever." Friends, thank you so much for being with us today, and we look forward to seeing you again another day. Take care, be well, be kind, do good on this little moment that we have to be on the earth. Let's fill that with kindness, with stewardship, with wonder, with joy and love. And thank you all.
Thank you, Jack.